Greetings everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you all for tuning in. I got another favorite bands video. This time we're going to focus on the bands that I've put number 21 through 30. So another batch of my favorite bands here. Though I did put this list in order, I don't take the specific order of them too seriously. I mean, that honestly can change. It'll probably change by the time I have all these videos posted, to be honest with you. So it's, you know how fickle that can be. But more or less, I just want to talk about these awesome bands that I love, and especially these 10 bands on this video I want to highlight. Starting with the band I placed number 30, and that would be Black Sabbath. So in my last video, I had Ozzy's solo catalog, 38 or something like that. I forget exactly where I put him, but the story for me with Black Sabbath is actually fairly similar. I was never the biggest Black Sabbath fan, though I've known who they were for a long time, and I've known the hits, War Pigs, Paranoid, Iron Man, Sweet Leaf, etc., etc. But just for a long time, they didn't appeal to me to the point where I wanted to get into their albums. And something changed last year, maybe a little bit in 2023. I forget exactly when. It was recently, though. And what really changed my mind or got me hooked on Black Sabbath was actually this album right here, Masters of Reality. Such a great album. From, of course, Sweet Leaf, which I've heard a million times on the radio. Great song. After Forever, I think that one really drew me in. Great song, great riffage from Tony Iommi. Children of the Grave, another killer track. One of my favorite, if not my favorite, Black Sabbath song. Lordless World, Into the Void, just super album right here. And that got me interested in going and listening to the rest of the Sabbath catalog. Of course, I went back to this one here, Paranoid. I had listened to this album in the past before. Liked it, but went back with a fresh pair of ears. And then proceeded to go through the rest of the classics, Volume 4, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, especially this one here. I love this one. Great album. And of course, the first one, which I don't own yet, but awesome album as well. Fast forward to the Ronnie James Dio era. You got some great ones here, Heaven and Hell, Mob Rolls. My personal favorite with Ronnie, Dehumanizer. Just a really killer, heavy album, angry album. I don't know who pissed in Ronnie's Wheaties during that Dehumanizer era, but like between that and Strange Highways, those are some of Ronnie's just most aggressive vocals, and I love every second of those two albums. And another personal favorite of mine, the one with Ian Gillan, Born Again. I think this album is pretty ass-kicking there. So great wealth of material from Black Sabbath. Glad that I've gone back and given them a fresh chance with a fresh pair of ears, because I've really enjoyed my time digging deeper into their catalog. So definitely wanted to put Sabbath here on my list somewhere. Then this is where they happen to fall. Next up, I have one of the greatest bands to come from the LA scene back in the 1980s. That, of course, is none other than Ratt. Awesome hair metal band with just a great sound that I fell in love with the instant I heard it. First time I was exposed to Ratt was back in, it would have been in about 04. I was 14 years old and really beginning to expand my musical horizons beyond those first 4 bands that I had been into. And I got a 80s compilation CD, and on it was Rounded Round. And it was probably my favorite track on that whole CD. Catchy song, and the guitar tone was so crisp and gritty, and I loved it. And Stephen Pearcy's voice was just so cool. and just almost kind of sounded like a rat singing. It was it was so fitting and so awesome. I love that sound the minute I heard it. So then I got the 81, 91 greatest hits collection, which unfortunately I don't have anymore, but that was my first like big exposure to more of Ratt's music, and I love pretty much everything on there, and that got me into collecting the albums, of course. Actually, I lied. I forgot I did pick it up again. I gave away the one that I had back in the day, so I found this at Goodwill probably a year or two ago and forgot about it. So, but that led me to getting, Out of the Cellar, Invasion, Your Privacy, which is personally my favorite Ratt album. Dancing Undercover was my favorite Ratt album for a long, long time. Reach for the Sky and Detonator. Just a really awesome classic run of albums here. Really consistent run of albums. I mean, Ratt is just a very consistent band. I mean, just 5 albums in a row, just all killer stuff. Unfortunately, after that, I think the production slows down a little bit. You got Collage in 97, which I still need to find that album. Or Self-Titled from 1999. I like this album. I think this is actually a really good album. And this album actually has my favorite Ratt song, believe it or not, which is the song It Ain't Easy, which I love that song. Such a un-Ratt-ish sounding album and song, but I just think that song is awesome. Of course, Infestation, their most recent album. And of course, beyond that, I mean, you got Stephen Pearcy's got a lot of great stuff solo. I don't have any of his solo albums, but pretty much all of his releases have songs I think are really good. You've got, NHRA used a couple of his songs too. Drive With Me was their theme song, I think, in 05. They used Are You Ready, I think, in 08. Of course, you've got You're a Lot Like Me was a really good song. That album that song came off of had some other really good songs. You Only Live Twice. Just a lot of good songs Steven has in his solo catalog, not to mention some of his other projects like Arcade. Really killer album there. And I'll tell you what album I want to find, that industrial metal band that Stephen Pearcy was in the 90s called Vertex. They had a song called One Like a Sun, which I think is a kick-ass song. I love that song. I want to get that whole album. I keep my eye out for it, but I've never seen it out there. So I definitely want to track that down because I freaking love that song. But yeah, just a great, consistent band. Unfortunately, all the drama involving Ratt has kind of impeded any more albums. I'm pretty sure this will probably be the last one that we get, and I feel kind of lucky that we even got it, considering how much bickering seems to go on with Ratt. But really, really killer band. Had to be somewhere on my list here. I've loved them since I was a teenager. I would say that I think their consistency is their strength and also a little bit of their detriment. I might put them a little bit higher. Aside from this album, they never really broke away from that sleaze metal thing, which I would have loved to have gotten some more, a little more variety from Ratt. But at the same time, the fact that they've stayed consistent with these great 80s albums is part of what made them so awesome, because all those albums were just phenomenal. So a lot of great stuff, great sound. Can't say enough for Ratt. They're coming in the number 29 spot for me.
Billy, don't you lose my number? 'Cause you're not anywhere that I can find you. Oh, now, Billy, don't you lose my number? 'Cause you're not anywhere that I can find you.
All right, next up we've got Phil Collins, his solo catalog. My first concrete memory of Phil Collins is actually that South Park episode that aired in the mid-2000s, the one where the South Park kids got hooked on Ritalin and they all became Phil Collins fans, which is a funny episode, and now I kind of want to go find it and watch it. But I knew who he was because I understood the reference at that point, but he wasn't like very huge on my radar at the time. Um, Fast forward a handful of years, and when I started working in my early 20s, we used to listen to classic rock station at work, which exposed me to a lot of stuff that I wasn't exposed to prior, and that included a lot of Phil Collins. They played a lot of Phil Collins songs like "In the Air Tonight," songs like "I Don't Care Anymore," "Sussudio," "Don't Lose My Number," which was really the song that hooked me. "Take Me Back." Others, I know I've got to be forgetting a couple, but I got hooked on here. Anytime that I heard a song with Phil Collins' voice, whether it was his solo stuff or his stuff in Genesis, like I clicked with it instantly. I always looked forward to those songs coming on the radio. So, that of course led me eventually into getting his albums here. And one thing that I've always liked about Phil is that he doesn't really put the same album out twice in a row. Face Value, very moody, very airy sounding album. Of course, his big hit, "In the Air Tonight." This album, which is almost like the perfect bridge album between Face Value and No Jacket Required. It's got that sort of moody, airy feel to it, but it also has some very prominent horns on some of the songs, and that I think leads into his big kind of party rock dance album from '85, one of the most 80s sounding albums of all time, it has to be, which is also part of why I love it. Then you got But Seriously, sees Phil tackle some more serious, kind of heavier issues lyrically. This album I was never crazy about, both sides. I got a song I like on it, but otherwise, not a big fan. Dancing to the Light, I think his most underrated album, really fun album, and an album that almost feels like it should be one of his Disney soundtrack albums. Like that whole time I listened to Dancing to the Light, I love it. It's a great album, but I just can't help but think that it's like so many of these songs could have been in like a late '90s live action Disney movie, because he did those Disney soundtracks there in the late '90s. Of course, Tarzan. This is my we got this for my son because he used to really love the Tarzan movie, and hey, I grew up in the 1990s, so this era of Disney movies is the ones that I grew up with. I don't think there's been a Disney movie as good as Tarzan since Tarzan. And of course, Phil's soundtrack has a lot to do with it. It's also a good movie, but everyone talks about like "You'll Be in My Heart" and "Strangers Like Me," which are good songs, but personally, I really like "Son of Man" a lot. And that drumming at the beginning of Two Worlds is really cool too. So awesome soundtrack. The Brother Bear soundtrack wasn't quite as memorable, but it had some alright moments. Brother Bear, I think the fact that Phil does the soundtrack is by far my favorite thing of that movie. Otherwise, I find Brother Bear to be quite forgettable. But enough about the Disney movies. I just really took a liking to Phil's music over the years. He's an artist that I find myself going back to an awful lot, and I'm always happy to play some Phil Collins. So on the number 28 on my list here, I've got Phil Collins. Next up, I've got the Australia legends AC/DC. AC/DC is a band that I started off absolutely despising. I think I've talked about this on the channel plenty of times whenever AC/DC comes up, but when I was first getting into music and I was into like Kiss and Aerosmith and Van Halen, etc., etc., I hated AC/DC. I did not get it at all. My dad actually had their live album, and then I remember at a truck stop we saw this they have like a little rack of CDs there, and he got this, and he, I guess, was going to try to get me into AC/DC, and I wasn't getting it. I mean, for those about to rock, like it just, I don't know, I wasn't getting it. So a couple years later, I think I was like maybe 15, and I was riding in the car with my dad, and we had the radio on, and Money Talks comes on the radio. I expected not to like it, but I got it. I loved it. It was melodic, but it had that AC/DC kick to it, and had Brian Johnson's kind of screeching vocals, and like in that moment I got it. And I went back and listened to some AC/DC with a new mindset. First album that I got, besides For Those About to Rock, which I kind of hijacked from my dad, but was AC/DC Live, which I also hijacked from my dad. And that, this exposed me to a lot of other AC/DC. Of course, Thunderstruck I had already known, Back in Black I had already known, Highway to Hell. So I had, the big hits I already knew, but songs like Shoot to Thrill, Heat Seeker, Dirty Deeds. I think this is the first time I heard TNT as well. But some of those other songs, some of those other hit songs, well, my first exposure to them was here. And then I went and grabbed, and picked up like the Black album, Back in Black, Razor's Edge, one of the first ones I got because it had Money Talks on it, of course. I just started collecting the AC/DC stuff from there, and really loved it. What you get with AC/DC, you always know what you're going to get with AC/DC, just good, straightforward, hard rock and roll. Of course, my two favorite from the Bon Scott era, these two, Boweridge and Highway to Hell, I think pretty much damn near perfect rock albums. And of course, you got Back in Black, which doesn't need any soliloquy from me. I think everyone pretty much knows that album. Then you got some real underrated ones in the 80s that I think are underappreciated. Flick of the Switch is a really killer album. Fly on the Wall is a really killer album. Blow Up Your Video, I think, is a really good album as well. I think the problem with these two is the production stinks, but there's some really good songs on here, especially if you can kind of get past that sloppy sounding production. And of course, we got to talk about their new one, Power Up, which is a kick-ass album. Deep into the pandemic year of 2020. Music had kind of shut down for a while, and tours were put on hold, albums were being pushed back, and then, was it November that this album was released? It was after Bon Jovi gave us 2020, which is my least favorite album from them. AC/DC gives us that gem of an album right there, Power Up, just full of great stuff. Nice comeback for Brian Johnson too, after all the things that he had to leave during that tour in 2016 with the hearing loss and whatnot. So, and Rock and Bust, while it is not a terrible album, I thought kind of sounded like AC/DC was really old. And they come back on this album, they sound refreshed. This honestly sounds like it could have been the follow-up to Razor's Edge, in my opinion. So, killer stuff. AC/DC, number 27. Number 26, we're going to talk a little Tremonti. Mark Tremonti's solo band, if you will. 6 studio albums, all of them pretty freaking awesome. Was definitely interested in checking out Tremonti because I've always enjoyed Mark's guitar work. Most notably, or what I most know it for was Creed. His work in Creed, and I always thought that his guitar work in Creed was really good, a lot of good riffs. And before I really started getting into Alter Bridge, what I did know about Alter Bridge was the great guitar work from Mark Tremonti for the most part. I mean, the songs that I did know, it was his guitar work that really stuck out to me. So I happened to find Dust at the record store, picked it up sort of on a whim, without really knowing too much about what was on it, but bought it anyway, and I freaking loved it. I mean, everything on here just was killer. I love the metal stuff on here, like My Last Mistake, The Cage, Once Dead, Betray Me. Unable to See is really good, but my favorite song on here is actually the title track, kind of one of the softer songs on here. Great vocals from Mark. Mark is a pretty darn good singer as well. Just a killer, solid album. I really, really love this one. The other Tremonti album that I've since picked up All I Was, his first. A lot of cool songs on here as well. Wish You Well is a killer tune. Brains is a killer tune as well. Doesn't Matter. Whole album really, but those are probably my three songs. And I need to get the rest of his albums because they're all freaking good. Cauterize has just the four song punch that kicks off Cauterize is so in your face and abrasive. Radical Change, Flying Monkeys, which is a freaking cool song. The title track and Arm Yourself, all of them just punch you in the gut right off the bat. Tie the Noose is a great deep cut on that one too. And of course there's Dust. Dying Machine, great album. Marching in Time, great album. And his new one, The End Will Show Us How. Probably my least favorite of the bunch, but still really good, solid album. So great stuff from Mark Tremonti. Finding that I like pretty much anything his name is attached to because his guitar work always phenomenal. So I got Tremonti here in the number 26 spot. Next up, I've got Thin Lizzy, great classic hard rock band from the 1970s that unfortunately doesn't seem to get the attention they deserve, in my opinion. Hugely influential for so many bands that came after them. And though Jailbreak and Boys Are Back in Town are great songs, I just feel like they don't get the same amount of attention or radio play that a lot of other classic rock bands from that era get. And as I was talking to my dad, the more I got into Thin Lizzy, he talked about how he used to hear Thin Lizzy on the radio all the time, and unfortunately, in my generation, I kind of feel like those two songs get played once in a while, and that's all you hear from them, which is a shame because they have a wealth of great material beyond that. Always great guitar work, always great drumming, but what really makes Thin Lizzy stand out to me is Phil Lynott's vocals and lyrical style. He's got away with words and just writes such great poetry style lyrics. It just works. And tons of great stuff here. Nightlife. The real standout to me on here is Sha-La-La because I love the drumming at the end of that song. It is so great. And then you just got that really classic run of albums here with Fighting, one of my favorite Thin Lizzy albums. Jailbreak, probably their best known. Johnny the Fox, great album as well. Bad Reputation. Then comes personally my favorite, Black Rose. All great stuff right there. And of course I'm missing the first three albums in Chinatown. And I got these two here, the last two as well, as they start heading in a more metal direction, which, good stuff. A lot of good stuff. Not a weak Thin Lizzy album to be had. I just wish that some of these songs got more attention. I mean, he's on Jailbreak. Freaking Angels from the Coast. Like, there's no reason that song shouldn't still be getting played because it's a great, catchy song. Romeo and the Lonely Girl is great as well. Cowboy Song, I never hear that on the radio either. Emerald, of course, then Johnny the Fox has some great songs on it too. I think Johnny's a really cool song. Don't Believe a Word is great. Johnny the Fox meets Jimmy the Weed. Old Flame. Fighting. You've got I Love Suicide on this one. I guess probably not like a good radio friendly track, but it's a great song. Fighting My Way Back is really cool. King's Revenge is great. That's a great song. That's one that I think should still get some attention today too. So a lot of great stuff from Thin Lizzy. I put him smack dab in the middle of my list here at number 25.
Times were changing, 18 years of fading. Ain't a lot of time left to be a star. On an island, all alone and dying. Walk upon the water, but you won't get far. Dreams and visions.
24th place, I'm going to go with Savatage, a band that I really got into heavily last year. It all started for me when somebody donated this to a thrift store that never has good CDs, by the way, and it was there almost like on a silver platter for me just to buy it for 50 cents. great purchase. And I bought it just for the principle of it. I mean, you don't see a Sabotage album laying around at thrift stores very often. Wasn't going to let that pass up. So I liked it. I come home, I played it, I liked it. It took a little bit for me to really dive in, I guess. But from here, that led me to getting some more of their albums. I happened to find Edge of Thorns at or at the record store, and I loved it. Thought this album was killer. I still think it's a great album. So many great songs. Such a diverse group of songs here too. Like the heavier stuff, He Carves a Stone, Lights Out, Conversation Piece, Damien, all really good. The softer stuff, like All I Bleed, Sleep, really good as well. Scraggy's Tomb's really cool. Just great stuff all throughout this album. Really, really good album. Another one that I picked up was The Wake of Magellan. Not really expecting much. Like, I just didn't feel like, this will probably be whatever. But I bought it anyway, and I wound up loving it. I think it's a great, great album. Really showcases their ability to incorporate the symphonic element to the music, which just great album. A lot of fun listening to that. And then going back to their earlier stuff with like Hall of the Mountain King, Power of the Night. I love both of these albums. They're both tremendous. Sirens, of course, great as well. You've got, the other ones that I got in my collection, Dead Winter Dead and Streets. Awesome stuff. Just a great band who really grew over time. It's such a shame that Chris Oliva was killed when he was. I mean, just a great guitar player. And his playing is just phenomenal. I just wish that he would have... You never want to see anybody get unalived so early in life, but that was tragic. Of course, John Oliva, his vocals are just so metal to me. Like, I love his voice. Nothing against Zach Stevens. I think he's a great singer as well, but John Oliva just has such a personality to his voice. And whether it's Sabotage or John Oliva's Pain, I just love his singing. Great stuff. Great band. I got Sabotage here in the number 24 spot.
Vital sign of life, they declared it wasn't there. Coroner never checked because he didn't fucking care. Passing off the body, they all believe he died. Starting up the hearse, set out for a final drive. Like Whiskey Western Graveyard, when walking by at night.
Next up, we've got Megadeth. I was exposed to Megadeth for the first time when I was 14. It was right around the time that The System Has Failed came out. A friend of mine, the friend who introduced me to Kiss, really got into Megadeth, and they kind of became his favorite band for a while after kind of we moved on from Kiss, I guess. But my holdback, I liked them, but my holdback was Dave's voice. His voice just drove me insane. And though I did really enjoy when it came out, The System Has Failed, which is still one of my favorite Megadeth albums today. I think this is a great album. I went back and I tried to get into some more of their albums. The next one that I bought was Rust in Peace, and Dave's voice was just nails on a chalkboard to me. So I never quite clicked with them. Though musically I thought they were awesome, I just never quite got there with them. And then my style of music changed. I got more into 90s post-grunge stuff, got away from the metal for a while, and Megadeth just went on the back burner for a long time for me. Stayed relatively in touch with them for a little bit. I would go back and revisit some of their stuff now and then, but it would have to be in small doses because Dave's voice would get on my nerves after a while. And then I would find some other awesome. So when I first time I heard Washington Is Next, I'm like, fuck, what a great song. And then a year ago, I started getting into like I went back with fresh ears and listened to the catalog, and something somewhere clicked, and like Dave's voice doesn't bother me anymore. In fact, I've actually kind of grown to like it in a way. So I don't know. Now that that is no longer a hang up for me, I was really able to dive in and enjoy the whole catalog. Um, the older stuff that had the vocals that used to drive me nuts, like it no longer is that big of an issue for me. And I really feel like Dave's voice, he figured out how to utilize his voice sort of later on, especially when he started getting into like some of these um, latter stuff, or like the 90s and onward, like Countdown to Extinction. My personal favorite album for Megadeth, Euthanasia. I think he really figured out how to utilize his voice on albums like these. And then just a run of albums that they put out recently with Endgame, which is a great album from 2009. 13, I think, starts really strong. I don't even think Super Collider's that bad, even though I don't own it yet. But Dystopia is great. Great album right there. Sick, the Dying, and the Dead, and of course the new one here, Megadeth, which has its moments. I mean, I think it's gotten some mixed reviews this year, but it certainly has its moments. But yeah, I always thought Dave Mustaine was a fantastic songwriter, a great guitar player, and a genius when it comes to songwriting. I've always felt that. My hang up was just his voice. That's no longer a hang up for me. I've gotten over that, and Megadeth has shot up my list since then. So number 23, Megadeth.
Wielding the axe comes the one culmination that's always seems certain to bring down the curtain and breathe.
Number 22, we've got Judas Priest. Not very many metal bands more legendary than Judas Priest, for sure. My exposure to Judas Priest came back in 04, 05 as a teenager. I remember the first two songs I ever heard were Living After Midnight and Breaking the Law, both of which I thought were really cool songs. And then you had Another Thing Coming, which was in one of those Grand Theft Auto games, which I forget if it was, I think it was it Vice City? I'm pretty sure it was Vice City. Might have been San Andreas, but I think it was Vice City. And I used to play that game hanging out with my friend all the time. I didn't actually own it, but we would just kind of drive around town doing shit, listening to the 80s metal station, and that Judas Priest song would play. That eventually led me into getting British Steel, was the first album that I ever got, and instantly loved it. Of course, Rapid Fire. I think first time I heard Rapid Fire, I mean, game was on at that point. I just think Rapid Fire is a kick-ass tune. Metal Gods, I still love Breaking the Law. I think it's a great, fun song. Grinder, United, underrated song. Living After Midnight, yeah, I'm a little burnt out on that one. But like The Rage and Steeler, just great stuff on there. I then got a compilation of Judas Priest for Christmas. One of those, I think when I was like 17, maybe 16 or 17, and discovered like a ton of great songs that way. Started collecting some more of their albums, like Screaming for Vengeance. Great stuff on that album. Defenders of the Faith. Ram It Down, I had when I was younger as well. Painkiller. I got this. I think this was the last Priest album that I bought. And as I mentioned many times, I mentioned him just talking about Megadeth here a minute ago, that my musical taste changed a little bit, and I got more into like 90s post-grunge stuff, a little bit away from the metal. So after a few years, I was 2014, so I was 24 years old. I purged my CD collection, CDs that I had gotten away from, didn't think I was really going to come back to, and unfortunately, my pre-CDs were a part of a part of that purge. And I've since obviously come back and re-gotten all these CDs here, but also been filling out my collection. Like these two I had never actually owned before, but I picked up copies there. I did have Hell Bent for Leather and Stained Class back before, but I never had the first three, which I've now accumulated. You know, awesome run of 70s albums there. And then, of course, the newer stuff. My friend did have Jugulator back in the day. I found this at an antique store not too long ago for $8. I'm like, well, hell yeah. Angel of Retribution. Then, you know, Nostradamus and all the newer ones, Redeemer of Souls, Firepower, and the newest one, Invincible Shield. All really good stuff. Invincible Shield's great. The more playtime I give that one, the more I seem to love it. But I gotta say, with Judas Priest, what I'll never forget is the first time I heard the song Painkiller. I was in school. I was in 11th grade. We had there was a website that got past the like filtering system on the internet. You know, like, remember being in school and you could only go to certain sites because they had the, I think was it called Bessie? Was that like the dog that wouldn't let you go to certain sites or whatever? But it got past that, and we would always play music. Like whenever we were working on a project on the computer, my classmates or I, we would always put on our headphones and go to that and play music on the computer. And I was in the mood for something kind of heavier that day, and I scrolled down, found some Judas Priest. It had like Breaking the Law. They had Living After Midnight, another thing coming. Might have had like another song on there, and then they had Painkiller, which was like the one song that I hadn't heard before. So I clicked Painkiller and proceeded to have my ass brutally attacked for the next 6 minutes. Just the drum intro is phenomenal. And one of the best intros to a rock or metal song of all time. I love that intro. I love the guitars kicking in, and of course the guitar solo with Painkiller is probably one of my favorites. I don't know if it's my favorite guitar solo ever, but it's up there. And Halford's just high vocals in that song, yeah, it just kicks so much ass. And one of my favorite parts of the song, which like every part of the song is one of my favorite parts, but then you get toward the end of the song when Halford's voice comes down to like his normal range. He is the painkiller. That is so, I don't know. I could gush about Painkiller for a long time. But that, to me, is like one of the most memorable things with this band that I will never, ever forget. So, Judas Priest, great band, legendary band. I got him at number 22. Alright, the last band that we're going to go over in this video, number 21, I've got German metal legends Accept. Like Sabotage, I think me getting into Accept defined my musical experience of 2025. I even kind of forget what it was that got me interested in checking more Accept out. I knew the song Balls to the Wall, kind of vaguely London Leather Boys. Like, when I played the album for the first time, I heard that song. It's like, it sounded familiar, but I couldn't like quite pinpoint hearing it before. So, you know, but other than that, like, it was really all I knew from Accept. I was then watching other people's rankings, and since CD Guy ranked Restless and Wild as his favorite album, I decided I'd start there. And I'm glad I did, because Fast of a Shark is one hell of a way to introduce yourself to a band. Killer freaking song. And of course you got like Restless and Wild and Ahead of the Pack. Tons of great songs on here. And then from there I just branched out to a lot of the classics here. Breaker, really cool album. that shows Accept coming into the sound that we would all know and love. Of course, Balls to the Wall is the classic. Metal Heart is a great album as well. Russian Roulette, a little on the underrated side. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say off the charts said Russian Roulette was his favorite. So that gave me some incentive to check that album out. I think it's a great album, personally. But my personal favorite Accept album is Objection Overruled. I think this album is phenomenal. The title track's my favorite Accept song. I Don't Want to Be Like You is awesome as well. Protectors of Terror, Slaves to Metal, All or Nothing, Bulletproof, Sick, Dirty, and Mean, Donation, which is just a straight up metal AC/DC song, basically. This One's For You, kick-ass closer. Love this album. Also, love this one. Death Row. A lot of cool stuff on here. Death Row, Sodom and Gomorrah, Dead On, Guns R' Us, Like a Loaded Gun, What Else? Bad Habits, Die Hard. My preferred version of Generation Clash. Awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. And of course, round out the Udo Dirkschneider era with Predator. I think a pretty good album in its own right. Maybe a step down from its predecessors there, but still some fun stuff. And even in the post-Udo era, I still think there's some good material to be had, even though a lot of the more modern Accept albums, they kind of blur together for me. They don't differentiate themselves amongst each other, so it's just like one big glob of albums, but I can sit down and listen to them and enjoy them. They just don't stand out to me the way that the classics do, but the classics are just so great. Love Udo's voice, especially whenever he's really gravelly and snarly, especially on Objection Overruled. I think it's like my favorite Udo vocal right there. Just he's so pissed, and it's so awesome. But yeah, great freaking band. Accept. Certainly glad I made the leap into them last year. So that's another batch of my favorite bands right there. On the next video, we'll tackle who I put from 20 to number 11. And again, don't take the specific placement of them too seriously. I more or less just want to talk about my 50 favorite artists in these videos here. I did put them relatively in order, but like I said, the order can shift around quite a bit. So yeah, great stuff. If you like this kind of content, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this in the future. Keep your eye out for the next video I'll have, where I'll talk about the next batch of bands here. And I never ever think to do this, but plug my Instagram on here. I'll try to link it in the description if anyone's interested in coming over and following me on Instagram. I'd be happy to follow you back. Most of the stuff I post over there is music related, whether it's CD finds at the record store or thrift stores or whatever I happen to find to add to my collection, or just whatever albums I happen to be jamming to. That's kind of what I post over there. So anyone interested, come on over and talk more music with me. So if you like this, like I said, if you like this kind of content, thumbs up, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll catch you next time.